chargers, yep, too high in the rafters. I got a front team, new life and a tractor. Still sipping that moonshine and a plastered.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Another episode of the Moonlighters Club. This is 2 in a day where I'm like doing this like a real thing now. So I'm happy. I'm joined by Ivy Watts. Right? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I actually saw you speak at an event through WeWork. I think it was positioned specifically for people of color in sports, I think.
Right.
I remember going there and hearing you talk, and I'm like, all right, your story was pretty dope. And we'll get into that into detail. But as someone who used to play a little bit of basketball, like not serious, I like sports and stuff like that.
Right,
so I just like the mission you were pushing.
Perfect.
So we'll just start and say, we'll just start from where you're from originally. We can just go there and work.
All right. Sounds good. I was born here in Boston, grew up in Waltham, spent my entire life there, and currently now live in Quincy. So stayed in Massachusetts my entire life. I went to school in Connecticut, but been on the East Coast for the most part.
Do you have to ride a red line every single day?
It's the worst.
How awful is that?
It's so bad, like with the derailment and everything. And I'm in Quincy with the one stop that's being renovated.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I can't. I was going to take the train today and I was like, no, I'm just driving. I'll find parking somewhere because I can't.
For those who live in Boston, we have the cheapest yet shittiest train line in the city. Two lines have fallen off the tracks in the past 3 months. Like
they raised prices.
Yeah, they brought the prices up to like literally it's the worst thing ever. Like really, I have to take Orange Line, which smells like pee, but it works for the most part, but I only take the red line to get to Cambridge. That's 3 stops.
Right.
I used to do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, no.
Now it takes like 35 minutes.
Exactly.
It's awful.
There's always a fire, medical emergency, like you just can't win.
So I'm just getting angry thinking about it. So you live in Waltham. Did you go to college in Massachusetts? Or
Connecticut, University of New Haven.
University of New Haven, and you played sports there.
Yes, I ran track.
Got it. I knew I want to make sure I didn't get that wrong. I'm pretty sure she ran track. What was your race? 400. Okay, nice. I ran the 4 in high school.
Yeah, it's a tough race.
It's
really tough race.
Super hard. I tried high jump, and they were. I thought because I dunked in high school that I was going to
be good at it.
Yeah. And then
high jump takes a lot of skill.
It's really hard. And I got super discouraged because there was this dude who was like, I was in Minnesota. My last year of high school, I went to Minnesota. And I'm like, I'm about to come out here.
Right.
And like my hood genetics are about to take over. And this one, I'll never forget, he was a regular. He looked like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. That's what I do. He came out and jumped like straight up 6'8". And at that point I quit. And they were like, just do the 400. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that. So I was like middle of the road.
Oh, gosh.
400. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. So.
It's not a fun race, though. So I don't know if it was a good compromise. But
Did you choose it?
Well, it kind of just chose me, I guess. I was a short sprinter for a little while there. So I did the 200 and 100. Then like late high school, I started to figure out that I was better a strength sprinter. So the 400, 800 was more my speed, I guess you should.
What was your best time?
My best time was 55.6. Yeah, so 55.6.
Oh, okay. Nice. Nice. All right, so you ran that. You did that all throughout college. What is that actually like? Because like now more than ever, I'm hearing about, like I knew athletes in college, right? But I feel like you only hear about basketball and football for the most part.
Right.
What's it really like? Running and going to class?
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. I went to a Division II school, and you would think that there's less pressure than Division I, but coaches still expect you to be there 7 hours a day to practice. And that's a lot of time when you still have class all day and have to do homework. So you're up all night, but then you have to get enough sleep to practice and be up at 6 a.m. and have a social life. So it's really taxing, but I think it's a really great experience because you do learn a lot of life skills and about teamwork and about hard work and pushing through adversity. But it is really difficult having to manage all of those things.
Was it like scholarship? Was it related to? Okay, so then there's added
pressure because you know that you're there getting paid and you have to meet a certain standard, and it's kind of repeated to you to meet that standard, and that causes a lot of anxiety for people for sure.
So throughout your school career, would you say that could you enjoy it more than you couldn't? Like, was it all in all more fun than it was stress, or do you feel like it was kind of just like even?
So when I was an athlete, I did struggle a lot with mental health issues, and I struggled a lot in silence. And I think my experience as a whole was an enjoyable experience, but I had so much pressure on me from other people and on myself that I think it took away from it a little bit. So when I think about it as a whole, like I loved college, I loved being a student athlete, but when I think about the nitty gritty day to day, it was incredibly stressful and led to a lot of struggles that I had after college.
Dang.
Yeah.
Could you tell anyone when you were running? Because I feel like sports is one of, maybe it's different. Maybe like it's I feel like especially for guys, there's this alpha thing, right? Like, just eat it. But I honestly see it in sports in general. Like, can you honestly tell a teammate or someone, yo, like, I'm just not here? Like, does anyone want to hear that?
So that's the thing. It's hard. I think it's hard. And I think more schools are coming around to having those open conversations. But I think there is a stigma around mental health and athletics to just suck it up. Like whatever you're dealing with, a physical issue, a mental issue, just suck it up. So you might have those teammates who are really open and want to hear what you're going through and want to work with you through it. But then there might be those people like, I really don't care. Like you're here to play, you're here to run fast, and I need you to do that.
Right.
And so those conversations do happen. And when those conversations happen, unfortunately, those students who are struggling are like, well, I'm not going to talk to anybody now if one of my closest teammates or coaches wasn't receptive to what I was saying, which definitely, adds to that stigma and adds to that struggle that student might be dealing with.
So when you were doing this and playing, did you find any solace in study when you were going to school?
Like academics?
Yeah.
Again, another pressure situation. Like I was 100% needing to be a perfectionist. And so it was athletics and academics. Like I walked away from school with a 3.97 GPA.
Nice.
Perfectionist.
I was nowhere near that. That's nice.
Like I had to be. And that added so much.
You had 3.9 while playing sports?
Yeah.
That's insane.
But
congratulations.
Thank you. But it's also like looking back at it, you do look at all of those things that you kind of like put so much pressure on yourself. You like almost hated yourself for like you don't ever feel perfect when you're chasing out that perfection. So academics, although I'm doing great in school, and that kind of added to the fact that nobody recognized that I was struggling, because no one thinks that girl with a 3.97 who's running pretty fast on the track and has friends and a good family, like no one thinks that that's the person that's struggling, but that's often the person that is.
Then when you were going through this, is it easy for you to tell someone, I'm having a bad day?
No, it was not easy back then because that perfectionist mentality tells you, like, I can't let anybody see me as weak. I can't let anybody judge me. So I'm just going to let everyone see that 3.97. I'm going to let everybody see that perfect person. But on the inside, I'm going to literally be tearing apart. I've learned differently now, but back when I was really struggling, no, it's kind of like you're in this bubble, unfortunately.
Yeah, my family comes from South Carolina. My dad's from Alabama, my grandma's from South Carolina, and the men are just like, no, you just swallow all the anger, put it like right here,
right. Yeah.
Heart attack at 55, and then you're like, oh, okay, whatever. So like, even like just seeing that, and I don't know why, I feel like in our community it happens a lot, but like even for me, like if someone asks me, we'll talk. If you're like, Joe, you're all right, but I'm never going to initiate the conversation of like, yo, this is like, I'm not having fun right now. It's just weird, and that's not good.
No, it's not. It's not. But that's a good point there. It's like if people are educated in terms of like what a bad day looks like for you or for anybody, like then they're gonna know like, okay, I have to ask Joel because I know he's not gonna come to me. So like, let me just check in and see how he's doing.
Right.
And that's important for people to feel like they can ask those questions. But that's also scary because if I ask you that question and then you're like, all of these things are going wrong. You're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to help you or what to say. Like that's scary for like the person on the receiving end. So that sometimes creates some fear in like even having that conversation.
So this is interesting because I feel like for most, well, maybe most, but most people in college, it's kind of like if you don't have too many things like that, it's a fairly carefree time.
Right.
But then things get really hard when you leave. For you, you're excelling at your studies, right? You're playing sports and you're ready to get out of school. What's that like when you're already in an environment that's fairly stressful and now you got to, what did you go to school for?
Psychology.
Okay. So you're out. Did you have something lined up as far as work for when you got out?
I did.
What did that even feel like crossing that stage and they're like, all right, you're not even here anymore? Are you happy? Are you like...
So my athletic struggle really, again, this perfectionist mentality is that my goal was to run 54 seconds. And that's because my coach told me I was here to replace a girl who was this 5-time national champion. She was Woman of the Year. She ran 54 seconds. So like my coach said, like, you're here to replace Shannon Gagne. So from day one, I'm like, I have to do this. I have to be perfect. And so when I left school, not having ran that time, not being an athlete anymore, not continuing on with professional sports, it was a goal for me at one point, but then just kind of never happened, or I guess never tried to go to that far. But once I left school and then I didn't run that 54 seconds, that's when I really started to struggle with depression because I felt so much like a failure.
That's so crazy.
Right. That perfectionist mentality literally ruled everything and then tore me apart because that 54, literally that one number meant so much to like what my life depended on. It was crazy.
First of all, damn coach. Like, and Shannon, really? So like you
Why do you have to run so fast?
So that's messed up because I don't understand why people would say that for sports terms. It's like let's look at basketball. Like to look at someone and go, okay, this person before you averaged 30 points.
Right.
Like what? Like isn't it about like winning? Like whatever.
Right.
So that's awful because now you have this number in your head and you actually had the measuring stick to like how much you reach or did not reach. Right. So I could see why that would be shitty.
Exactly.
So you leave with that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Did you work? Were you like still close to home when you were working? Was that Boston area or was that?
Yes, it was this area. Yeah.
So you're back in Boston. You got this. What's work like? You got this thing in your head.
Yeah. Right.
Are you all right like throughout this process or are you just like, whatever, I'm out, school's done, I'm done?
No, yeah, it was really, really a tough time for me. And I just feel like because of all of this, that kind of went out of control in a sense. And I was like in a really bad relationship that was incredibly emotionally abusive. So it was kind of just like this spiraling of really bad situations because, I feel like a lot with athletics, with athletes who kind of have their whole self-worth in athletics. When you leave, your whole world does come crashing down, especially because there's never really a chance to build up any other part of your identity when you're an athlete. Yeah. Especially because like I said, 7 hours of your day is dedicating to being like running or playing basketball or whatever it is, crafting your talent and you don't ever have a time to really figure out who else you are. So then when you leave and you have to go into the work environment, you have to, be a productive member of society. It's really, really hard. And I struggled with that a lot. I had like no sense of self-worth. And it led to a lot of mental health struggles and continuing to feel like I had to let the world see that I was that perfect person. So again, just continuing to like be in this bubble, be in silence.
So you're working in the interesting thing is you're working in psychology.
Yes.
What were you doing out of school in psychology specifically?
So I was working at Riverside Community Care and I was in the quality department. So I was just making sure that our clients were really liking the care that they were receiving. Okay. And I always think it's interesting that I was working in the mental health field. I had a psychology degree, so I'm learning about mental health struggles, but can never really see that I was the one that was struggling. Yeah. It was just, I think it's like kind of one of those things you don't recognize that you're struggling until you've hit rock bottom. So I'm learning about everything, but the stigma from teammates or from society spoke so much louder than what my professor was saying or what I was, learning on the job. Do most people who have or think they have mental health issues, like something like depression, do they rate it or judge their level of depression? I'm asking you because I don't know psychology. Right. Do they judge it by other people? You know what I mean? And they go, well, he's struggling harder. He's smiling. So I shouldn't be sad. I should be kind of fine. So I can't be depressed, right? Exactly. Okay. That happens so much. You think about the other person and you're saying, well, they have it worse than me. Like, I'm fine. I don't need to talk about it. When everyone's struggle is different, everyone's struggle is valid. And I think that if you're hurting, like you should be able to talk about that to somebody, whether that's a friend, a parent, or a therapist. I think that there's a space for everyone, no matter what your struggle is. If you think it's the smallest thing in the world, like you stubbed your toe and that really made you struggle, like, go talk about it. Like I'm really an advocate for whatever you're struggling with to speak up about it.
So you're working, how long were you working at?
About 2 years.
2 years. Was it for you getting to the point where you felt okay with letting people know what was going on? Was that gradual? Was it like something that happened that was instant?
Yeah. So after I left Riverside is when I left that toxic relationship and started working on myself. And that's when I got into therapy. So even while I was there, it was still this silent struggle. No one knew about it still in that time period. So
you started seeing therapy. And as someone who studied psychology, is therapy hard?
Therapy is difficult to do because you have to be willing to do the work. You can't really go in there and expect the therapist to just say like, okay, here's the answer to all of your problems. Like you have to do a lot of soul searching. Like day one, you go back to like, so what's your mom like? What's your dad like? What was your childhood like? And those sometimes are really like uncomfortable questions for people to want to answer. So you have to like be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's hard, especially if you spend your entire life not talking about anything. So, but I think if you are at that point where you're ready to do therapy, you have to kind of just be like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything. This is a person that I have to trust because by law, they can't talk about anything that I say here unless it's that I want to hurt myself or hurt someone else. So, it's hard, but I think it's incredibly worth it. So
you start doing that. And I feel like I thought it was just a Black community, but now I'm finding out that my friends who are Irish, Italian, like any like strong culture, they're like, we don't do that here. Like you just literally like, you don't pay for the ability to talk to someone. Like I had a friend who was married and his family didn't know what anxiety was. They didn't get it. They were like, what? You're just nervous or something. Yeah. So, okay. So you start doing that. And when do you notice a change? Like I do think it's weird. There are times where I feel anxious and it's related to something. Like I don't like flying, but I can tell when I'm being anxious about a flight.
Yeah.
But then there are times where it just happens, but I can't really tie it to anything. Right. It's just like gone.
Right.
So for you're going through this and you start talking to someone. How do you notice that things are working? Like, how do you even know?
Right. I think it took a lot of time. It was like probably even like a year or so. And that's also discouraging to people. Like when I talk to people, they're like, oh, how long did it take you to start feeling better? And it's like, oh, a year. And they're like, oh, I don't want to, it's a long time, you know, like it feels like forever. But it's really, you have to put in the work because your brain has been wired to be negative or to, you know, you have depression and you have to really do that work, or you get medication or whatever it is. So it did take me a fairly long time. And it was a combination of therapy, like I said, leaving this relationship that allowed me to finally focus on myself, and then doing some positive affirmations, because my brain was just so negative about how I felt like a failure, this 54 seconds, like not feeling good enough. And so then I really had to do that work through positive affirmations and like rewiring my brain to tell myself that I was beautiful or that I was good enough, and doing that work to finally start, you know, understanding who Ivy was.
Okay. So now let's get into what you do outside of work, which you will eventually be doing full time. Yes. So what is your business around that? If you could describe that.
Yes. So I would say that I'm a mental health empowerment speaker. So I speak to students, mostly student athletes and coaches and administrators, about mental health. So I go in and I talk about my own personal struggle, that I struggled with anxiety and depression, this need to be perfect around 54 seconds, and really just empowering the students to know that they're not alone, that there's other people who look like them, walk like them, play sports like them, that have also struggled, and that it's okay to struggle, but that they can talk about it, that there's resources around them, and that they don't need to struggle in silence. And it's been really empowering for me, for students afterwards to come and talk to me and say, I never knew anyone else struggled like I did, or I am struggling, and you made me feel like I could go and talk to somebody, and like that's what I'm going to go do. And, you know, maybe I don't, you know, save their lives, but in that moment they feel empowered to go make a difference for themselves or for a friend. And so I've been going around to schools mostly in the Northeast, but I was actually out at the NCAA in June, which was a really great opportunity. And I spoke to 70 coaches. So I do a lot of that work. And with the coaches is a little bit different. I'm empowering them to really recognize warning signs in their athletes, and then having that tough conversation. Like, I noticed that you're struggling. This is what the conversation should look like. This is who I should refer you to, things like that. So it's really all about that empowerment piece, but it's a little bit different depending on the crowd.
So what point did you get, because I feel like I was talking to someone else about this, like I think of people who speak professionally. Right. I don't even, like, at what point did you say, I want to do that? You know what I mean? Like, especially about this, because I feel like most people I know who do it, it's business stuff. And I feel like everyone wants to get on stage and be like, this is marketing. You know what I mean? But specifically for something like this, at what point were you like, I got to talk to this with other people? Right.
I think when I recognized how useful therapy was for me, and like using my voice to heal myself, I recognized that I could use my voice to potentially heal others as well. Yeah. So I was invited to speak at University of New Haven, where I ran. Unfortunately, one of our coaches had passed away by suicide. And so they asked me to come because I was a psychology student and I was a student athlete, just to come and talk to the team about maybe what they were struggling with, or just about suicide prevention in general. And then from there, it was very like a structured presentation. From there, I was like, I made a difference here, kind of just talking about suicide prevention for these students. And so maybe I can tell my story and help them as well. And so then it kind of turned into the blog that I have, Beautifully Simply You. And it was a blog post that's every Monday that was helping people. And then it kind of turned into, oh, wait, I want to tell my story. And 20-minute speech turned into 2.5-hour workshops. So it kind of just has spiraled from one time just being asked to do a presentation to something that I'm incredibly passionate about.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. So when you got to, what was that first, like after you went to school and spoke, the first time you went out and did it, right? After you did your blog, what's that like, that first time getting in front of people who don't know you? Yeah. And you're like...
It's scary. I mean, I think it's always scary, especially when you're telling like some of your deepest, darkest secrets. Yeah. But I think just with like anything, it gets easier with time when you continue to practice, and just really knowing that the value you're adding to these students. And I start to think it's less about me. Yeah. And if I mess up on stage, like who cares? Like that's something that I used to really care about with like social anxiety. But it's not about how perfect I am on stage. It's about the message that I send and helping those students. Like even if I just help one student, that's enough for me. So that's what I always try to go in with, even though it's incredibly nerve-wracking every time to be in front of 20 students or 300. Every time, just like if there's one student I can help, then this was worth it to me. And all of the nerves, everything was worth it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, so what goes into, so the blog and just like what's it like? Like, how do you even maintain that? Like I suck at writing. Like I do a blog. It pisses me off because I did like one and people are like, yo, this is awesome. I'm like,
oh, well then that's good.
Now I got to keep doing this. Like, I don't even, but so like, is it hard for you to put those words on paper? Like specifically emotions. I feel like I can only emote verbally, usually angrily, and then I cry after I yelled a bunch. I don't really even know how to articulate how I feel like on paper.
Right.
So what's that process like?
So I'm kind of the opposite. I've always been really good at expressing myself, even if it was just to myself, and journaling. Yeah. So writing has always been a strong point for me. So that's been easier. The speaking part has been more difficult for me because I've always hated public speaking. I've always hated conversations.
You can't tell.
Like this.
You're like,
I've worked a lot. It's been a lot of practice, spending time in my apartment talking to a wall. But yeah, for me, writing has always been a really good outlet for me, whether it was for something I was struggling with or just creative sense. So yeah, blogging has been kind of easy in that sense, but it's just hard. I think I feel the pressure sometimes that I've committed to doing this every Monday. So then it's like today's Saturday. I'm like, I haven't written a blog post. I usually have this done by like Wednesday. And so I have to think of something tonight or tomorrow. And that adds like a different level of pressure when I shouldn't really, no one's really expecting that. It's kind of something more that I put on myself. So I think that's probably the most difficult piece of it is like being like, okay, I said I would do this every Monday. Who's even actually reading it? I don't really know. Like I know there's a couple of people, but once I have an idea, I can write it like that. Sometimes it's just hard to get that idea. So
I'm glad you brought up the pressure. Do you still have a little bit of the athletic mentality with your work?
Yeah.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I feel like I see it in pretty much every company I work, especially the closer you get to the top or sales, it's bro sport mentality. Like, we gotta get this, we gotta crush this shit. And you're like, I get it, but come on. So for you, is it helpful? And for organizations, do you think it's helpful?
I mean, I think having any type of athletic experience is incredibly helpful for you in the workspace. Just really knowing how to work with so many different personalities, I think is really helpful. And like I said, like working through that adversity or juggling multiple different projects at the same time, because you have to kind of have some sense of time management when you're an athlete. But I think also it's hard again with that piece of having your entire identity around being an athlete. So I try really hard not to do that with speaking because I don't want to put self-worth into speaking. And then if I have a bad speech for whatever reason, things just happen. I don't want to then feel like a failure because I had that one bad day. So for me, it's really just remembering that I'm more than an athlete. Even though I'm not anymore, I'm more than a speaker. I'm more than a daughter or sister or friend. Like there's so many things about me. And if one thing goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. So that's where my athletic mentality kind of helped me in that sense to stray away from putting my entire self-worth into that.
How do you find the audiences? You say, like, do you just reach out to schools or ADs? Like, how do you find the
so luckily I have like a really good network based off my athletic career, like from high school or college. A lot of my coaches have moved on to different schools, so they have new connections. So really, it's a lot of cold emails, which sometimes go nowhere and sometimes lead to great things. And then other times just connections, letting my coaches, my ADs knowing about what I want to do, what message I want to spread, and then they connect me usually with other people, and that's led to opportunities like the NCAA, which was huge. Yeah. So let's actually walk through that. What was that like? How'd you get it? The NCAA speaking opportunity, and walk us through that whole process. So my athletic director from University of New Haven, Debbie Chin, I reached out to her probably in December and told her I wanted to continue to share my message and just wanted her feedback and thought process on what I wanted to do. And we chatted a bunch, and she said, I know the vice president of NCAA Division II. I want to get you connected with her. They do this workshop twice a year, and I think you'd be great. So, she basically initiated the contact, and then we kind of just took it off. And all of a sudden, I was going to be one of the keynote speakers at a workshop that they were doing for the coaches in June. And it was the longest speech I've ever done. I usually do like an hour and a half. So this is a 2.5 hour workshop, and it was intense, but it was actually also really empowering for me to walk away and be like, okay, I just did that, and like kept their attention. And we obviously did activities. I didn't just talk to them the whole time, but it was it's good for them too to like understand like the resources that they have at their school that they never really recognized they had before, or recognize things about themselves that they could help their student athletes they hadn't recognized before. And that was all through doing some inner reflection as well as some group conversations about, because it was all different schools that were there. So they were able to kind of brainstorm together and like, how can we best support our student athletes?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how receptive I'll split it into two groups. How receptive are to people in power positions when it comes to being transparent about how people feel, being respectful of that. And then for students, what's that receptive? Are they receptive or not?
Yeah. I think it's always a balance. I mean, there's always going to be a student, no matter what topic you're talking about, that is like, get me out of here. You know, there's always going to be a coach, the same thing. Yeah. So you're always going to have at least one of those people. But again, it goes kind of back to that one person that's impacted. And I think that they always are receptive. I usually have a line of students or coaches coming up to me after that want to just ask some personal questions that they weren't, feeling like they could ask in front of everybody, which is completely understandable. But yeah, I feel like people are receptive to it. They want to hear about this topic because I think it's coming up more and more that students are struggling. There's been more and more suicides, especially in athletics. So coaches really want to know, what can we do for our students? How can I recognize these things? So it's funny, the second I shift from my story to okay, these are all the warning signs. These are the things you can do. These are things I wish my school had done for me. They're like writing down in their notebooks, like ferociously, because they really want this information. They really want to know, like, what can I do for my students? What can I do to improve the culture at my school? So I think that they're really, really receptive to it.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I don't know. I'm not willfully ignorant about it, but I didn't know that they're like suicides.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. That's not something I was aware of at all.
Yeah, suicide is the second leading cause of death right now for young people. So it's a really, really tough topic to talk about, and it's really uncomfortable. And I always give people the space to kind of leave the room when we're talking about it, because I myself struggled with suicidal thoughts, never attempted, but still those thoughts are really, really scary. And I think a lot of students don't recognize what they can do when they have those thoughts, because we don't often give our students coping strategies. Yeah. So if they know those appropriate coping strategies, if the coaches know what they can do, then we can prevent something like that from happening. But yeah, suicide definitely is unfortunately on the rise, and really trying to figure out how we can. There's so many organizations out there trying to figure out how we can best reduce that. I think
it's especially like having this talk about business. Like there was a point in time, I feel I see a lot of analogies. Like there was a point in time where this business I was working on didn't work, and you talk it up so much, you've put this pressure on yourself for it to work, for the people around you that trusted you or helped you, maybe investing time, money, or just their ear. And you're like, if this does not work, what am I doing here? Like I have nothing. So the whole concept of like, I've never thought about suicide, but I know what it's like to feel like there's nothing. I can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Right. So it can be scary. Yeah, I feel like you gotta, I don't know, man. I'm weird. I always feel like I've seen enough underdog movies where I'm like, I know I'm like in jail for the next 80 years and I'm broke, but I can come back. Right. But I do understand that there are people who are like, if this doesn't work, what am I supposed to do with myself? Or like, there is no future. So that could be super duper scary. Right. Like, I don't even know, like, how do people get back from that point? Like, I've never really been around too many people who've been there.
Yeah, there's a lot of key things there. I mean, for sure, having a strong support system around you that understands what you're going through and is going to be there if you're in a time of crisis. Definitely being in therapy, going to the hospital if you need to be. Sometimes there's situations where somebody who's actively thinking about doing it, like 911 needs to be called. And so I think it's really, again, when you walk into therapy, again, it's a scary, hard work process, but when you have hit rock bottom, if you are, at that point where you're ready to rebuild, it is having that support system, going through therapy, and just doing that work every day. Sometimes students will ask me at the end of my speech if I feel like I've recovered. And I say that I feel like I'm recovering because there's always going to be those bad days, right? Like there's always going to be those days where you feel really, really crappy. Yeah. And no matter what you do, you're just going to feel crappy, like from 9 a.m. to when you go to bed. And you tried your best. And I have those tools now that I know work for me when I'm having those bad days. But, sometimes you just don't have those good days. And I think it's important for students to know that even if you have a bad day, like there's going to be tomorrow if you keep fighting. Obviously tomorrow's not promised, but to continue just having that hope inside of you rather than thinking that there's nothing else outside of whatever you were doing. So there's a lot of support, a lot of coping mechanisms that go into that.
Is there one speaking engagement that will always stand out
Yes. Yes. So actually there's two. So I did a speech at Stonehill College.
Okay.
And that was like 300 student athletes. It was my first time doing a speech without slides. So I had to do it all, like remember it all and remember the flow of it. Got my first standing ovation, which was amazing.
Nice.
And then I spoke to like 400 high school student athletes in New Hampshire and got another standing ovation. At the end, one of the students asked a question if he could have a group hug. So then all of this, not all of the students, but a huge group of students like run up to me and give me a hug. So it's like a video of it's like 30 of them coming and surrounding me. It's like beautiful. So yeah, those are definitely two of my highlights of my career, being able to make that impact that I could get like standing ovation and a hug and the students felt like good inside to do that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
So you told me about a milestone that's coming up for you, I think next week.
Yes.
What is that milestone?
Yes. I am leaving my full-time job at Partners to work full-time as a speaker and continue blogging Beautifully Simply You. So yeah, it's really exciting, really scary, but it's been a whirlwind of a year, how much it's picked up from, again, this kind of idea of a blog and
all in a year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just like this first speaking gig at my high school that was 20 minutes to, it's just ballooned so much and it just makes me feel so good. It's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. And I think when you think about like the trajectory of your life and how short it is and how it can end at literally any moment, I was like, I want to do it. I want to try it and kind of just see what happens. And if it fails in 2 years or whatever, I can always go back to a 9 to 5. I mean, that's not the hope, but I definitely feel like empowered right now that I've made a difference in students' lives. And my August is booked, so I'm feeling pretty good about that,
Yeah, good.
So yeah, things are picking up and I'm excited about kind of where it goes.
Do you have any one or few milestones you got like on the wall somewhere for like, let's say the next 12 months? If there are one thing or two things you're like, if I can just do that one thing, I'll be happy.
Yeah. So I would say I had a goal this year to do 20 speaking engagements and I like already have crushed that.
Nice.
So I think I'll say I'm going to do like 70.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So we'll report back. But yeah, I think that's a huge goal for me. And the other one is I hosted a mental health awareness event in Waltham, where I grew up, and basically did it all by myself. I partnered with an organization called Waltham Partnership for Youth, but it was a huge citywide mental health awareness event. And if anyone's ever planned an event, like how taxing it is, but we had 34 mental health organizations there that were showcasing their work. We had yoga and Zumba and self-love flowers, and we did a bunch of just mental health activities for the people that came. And it was an amazing experience, amazing accomplishment to be able to put on something so huge the city's never done before, kind of like the first of its kind.
That's awesome.
And so a goal of mine, again, is to keep this going. So, I want to be the 40th annual. So continue to do that, whether it's in Waltham or wherever. So
nice.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm super over the top cinematic with stuff, but I kind of, it's funny, you talking about being at school and leaving and how daunting that was, but now you're graduating again. It's odd. You're working on something that came out of nowhere and now you're about to be in it. Right. But the outlook is so cool. It's totally different. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's super cool.
Exactly. Yeah. It's completely different. And I really like that. I'm graduating again. And I feel like this time when I'm graduating, I feel good about myself. I'm in therapy, getting help, know what I need. And, I feel like I have a good support system. So I definitely feel like this time I'm graduating, not feeling that pressure or expectation to be this perfect person. I can just be who I am.
I'm so excited for you.
Thanks.
And you also got to write a book.
Yeah, that's one of my goals. Yeah, 2020.
And I feel like you should name it, this is the cheesiest name ever, but name it 54.
54, I know.
This is what it is.
Well, it's funny because I really feel like life is like a 400. I mean, there's so many different phases of the 400 where everything just starts to hurt and people pass you. And then every situation,
right.
When someone passes you, it's I'm done. Everything is just you might as well stop. But the 400, when I think about anything I do, when I get nervous for things, I think about meets and all the emotions that go out when you're about to run this race. And then when you finally finish, and if it's a good race, how great you feel, but then how horrible you feel if things don't go well. So it's funny that you say the 54 because that's kind of my thought process is how life is a 400. Each chapter will be the different parts of the 400.
That's cool. Well, I hope we'll do whatever we can. Please, let's get to 70 if we can.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. If people are trying to support you, where can they go? Websites, socials, all that.
Yes. So beautifullysimpleyou.com is my website. Also has my blogs on there. Email is ivy@beautifullysimpleyou.com. So feel free to email me on the website. There's a contact link box that you can fill out to contact me as well. But I'd love to connect or speak at your school or organization if you're interested.
Yes. Pay. You would pay.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Well, this is cool. This is super fun. I love the analogies that I made here, and I also love the transparency. Like, I think that's something that is mental health is now like a real big thing,
right.
But I also think we need to learn how to apply the new concepts that we learn.
Right,
like now that we know what anxiety and depression are, what steps should you actually take to, prevent and take care of it? So like therapy may be a thing. Like I'm trying to get myself to go to a therapist.
Right.
My wife's like, just do it. I'm like, I can handle this, but no, I'm going to find the time to do that. And I think awesome. Even journaling or just jotting stuff down, just being aware.
Right. Because therapy is a tool. So journaling can be a tool that's on top of that. So it's not something that you go and you're like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything right now and I'll be fixed. It's another one of those tools. So even though it's scary, just don't think of it as the stigma of it. Just another tool in your toolbox. It's going to help you.
I like that. All right. Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thanks so much.
I'm so excited for you. I cannot wait until I can just do something like this alone. I don't hate my job. I'm just saying it'd be nice to quit, not personal, just to, So I am very excited that you get to not juggle and do this full time.
Thank you.
Nothing but best wishes.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you in the near future.
Yeah, for sure.
And for everyone else, please tune in. We will have more interviews coming in down the pipeline. So please stay tuned and thank you.
Thanks.